In lesson 3 in module 7, we are going to start talking about square roots and cube roots. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to start or beginning to get ready to solve equations involving square roots and cube roots. So we need some kind of new notation we need to be familiar with, and we really have to understand what squaring a number is and what cubing a number is before we can take the square and cube root. So let's look at these tables down here. Okay, there's a relationship between this column and this column. And so we're just going to focus right now on find the rule part 1. Okay, so what do we do to 1 to get 1? Add 0, but I'm going to give you a hint. We're not adding in any of these. We probably would think of it as not that. Multiplying by 1, right? 1 times 1 is 1. All right. Well, I don't know what we're doing. You haven't figured it out yet, so I'm going to skip 2 and I'm going to go to 3. What do I do to 3 to get 9? Well, I multiply by 3. What do I do to 11 to get 121? Well, 11 times 11 is 121. So now I'm starting to see a pattern here. 1 times 1, 3 times 3, 11 times 11. I think that's all I've got to work with. But I really think what we're doing right now is we're multiplying by itself. So right here, we're going to go 2 times 2. Now, when we talk about squaring a number, we talk about taking it to the second power. So 2 times 2 we can rewrite as 2 to the second power, squaring it. And where that, or I assume that comes from, is if we wanted to find the area of this square, okay, let's say it's a square, its sides are the same. So the area of the square would be s times s. Now think way back to we work on exponents. You can think of this as, well, 2 bases multiplying. We add the exponents. But basically this just comes down to s to the second power. And since it's the area of a square, that's where squared, the terminology, or at least I'm assuming the terminology came from. This is actually 2 squared. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. Well, let's skip 81. Let's go to 15 here. Right? We're going to want to go 15 times 15. But remember now we don't write 15 times 15. We say 15 squared. And if you did that on a calculator, you could go 15 times 15 or just hit this square button here. And you'll see it says, you know, it's squaring 15 to get 225. Okay? 10 squared. 10 times 10 is 100. Excuse me. 12 squared. 12 times 12 is 144. Well, remember what this is. 10, this is 10 squared. 12, 12 squared. This is m. This is m squared. Okay? Now we want to think of it as going backwards. The way we undo squaring sorry, that looks not readable as I try to squeeze it in. The way we undo squaring, sorry, I must be hitting some kind of weird button here, is take the square root. The square root. And our square root is this radical sign. Okay. There is a couple things we need to know about this radical sign. This radical sign here denotes a positive number. Okay, so we're only going to be concerned, maybe put a couple stars with this, right? We're only going to be concerned with positive solutions right now. What do I mean by that? Well, I know that 5 squared equals 25, but so does negative 5 squared. Why? 5 times 5 equals 25, but so does negative 5 times negative 5. Negative times a negative is a positive. Okay? So we're only going to be kind of concerned with the positive answer right now. When you move on in math, then you start bringing in the negative answer. For what our purpose right now, though, is we're just worried about the positive, the radical positive number. So why do I bring that in? Well, we're undoing the squaring here, right? This was what number times itself? What number squared is 81? So we undo squaring by taking the square root. Again, how do you undo adding? You subtract. How do you undo dividing? You multiply. We have those pairings, those like operations that undo each other. Well, this is the next step. The square root of 81 means what number times itself equals 81? 9. 9 times 9 is 81. All right, 49 here. We take the square root of 49. What number times itself equals 49? 7. What number times itself equals 169? Now, if you didn't know, and again, come see me if your calculator is a little different. I know I'm using the computer one now, but if you have something different, come see me, okay? We have the square root button right here. Okay, I find it interesting there's a little 2 there because that's going to come into play a little bit. So if you don't know how to do it, you can absolutely use a calculator. If you don't know how to, make sure you come ask me, okay? So notice here we're taking the radical symbol, the square root of 169, that's 13. Why? Because 13 squared is 169. So this would be 13. Okay? Well, remember we're squaring the left column to get to the right. We're taking the square root of the right to get to the left. So n, which represents some value we don't know, is just the square root of n. Okay? All right. So we can see square and square root here. How about the second column, the second row? Well, what do we do to 1 to get 1? Well, again, I'm thinking we multiply by 1. But what do we do to 3 to get 27? I don't multiply by 3, I multiply by 9. Well, what do I do to 6 to get to 216? I don't know. If I took 216 and divided by 6, I get 36. That means I'm multiplying by 36. Now I'm starting to see something here. I know that 9, because it's a smaller number there, I can break that up into 3 times 3. So this is actually 3 times 3 times 3. This is 3 to the third power. 36 here, I can break that up into 6 times 6. So this is actually 6 times 6 times 6, or 6 to the third power. Okay, so we're over here, we're going to the second power. Over here, we're going to the third power. So 2 would go to 2 to the third power, which is 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. Now, when we say to the third power, we actually say cubing. Where does that come from? Again, I'm assuming that when you have a cube. Now remember, just like we had a square, okay, and this is going to be perfect, but kind of squint here. When I wanted to find the area of a square, I knew all the sides were the same in a square. Well, if I want to find the volume of a cube also has all the sides the same, length, width, and height. So volume of a cube, normally volume is length times width times height. And if they're all the same, notice I have 1, 2, 3 s's here. That becomes s to the third power. So we say cubed. When something is to the third power, we say cubed. Okay? So again, this 11 here, we're going to take 11 to the third. So you go 11. Now, some calculators do have a to the third power. This one doesn't. So I'm going to use this x to the y here and type in a 3. So notice it has 11 raised to the third, 1,331. Okay. This 10 here, remember that is 10 to the third power. 10 times 10 is 100 times 10 is 1,000. 7 to the third power is 343. So you see how fast these numbers jump up, right? And it's because we're taking 7 times 7, getting 49. So then it's 49 times 7. Okay, so it's jumping up quick, and that's something you're going to talk about later with like exponential growth and things like that. More with the squaring here, but anyway, now p. What are we doing each time? Well, we're taking whatever the number is. P is a number; it's a symbol representing a number, and we're raising it to the third power. Okay. So now what happens when we go the other way? Well, how do we undo cubing something? We take the cube root. Now the cube root looks really similar to the square root sign, but you put a little 3 here. That's why I thought it was kind of cool in the calculator. They put a little 2 there. You don't have to. You don't have to put the 2 there. If you did, it wouldn't be wrong. But you undo cubing by taking the cube root. So I need to take the cube root of 125. So on your calculator, This calculator doesn't have it. So I don't think anyway. Nope, we're already in scientific. There is ways to figure it out on this calculator. I'm not going to show you in this video. So there is a cube root button you can use on your calculator. So if you need, I can figure it out for you, or I can show it to you where it is. Anyway, what number times itself 3 times is 125? Well, that answer is 5. Sorry, I'm squeezing it in here. Again, what's the cube root of 64? What number times itself 3 times? Well, that's 4. 4 times 4 is 16 times 4 is 64. You're definitely going to need a cube root button here for 2,744. Trust me on this one, though. It is just going to be 14. And then this q here with a cube root of q, if we wanted to undo it. Okay? So again, in the next video, we're going to get into solving equations, simple ones, and we're going to be focusing on using our square root and our cube root because that's how we're going to undo squaring and cubing different numbers.